Hello and welcome to Catholic Life. My name is John Buckwheat. I'm your host, and my guest today is Steve Rossi from St. Michael's Parish. Now, Steve approached me many times. In fact, it's been over a year. Several times he has a topic he'd like to talk about. And I kept turning him down and thinking, oh man, I don't know, that's a tough topic, you know. But I finally agreed, and I thought, you know what, I think you've got the right idea. It's a great topic, and he's going to do a great job on it. You know, it's so easy to do an interview with the Knights of Columbus or the Ancient Order of the Hibernians or the Seminarians, but this is a little different kind of a topic. And you know what it is? It's on indulgences. And by the time this show is over, you will know what and how many and the benefits and all the literature you might want to find out about it. And I thank you, Steve, for coming on.
Well, thank you,
let's
John.
take 30 seconds out for a thank you message. And when we come back, let's tackle this topic. Okay?
Absolutely.
Stay tuned, folks.
The funding for this program was made possible by Fairfax Memorial Funeral Home, located at 9902 Braddock Road in Fairfax, Virginia. Fairfax Memorial is a family-owned funeral home providing full traditional funeral and cremation services. They also provide military and out-of-town arrangements to meet all needs, all faiths, and all cultures. Pre-planning is available, as well as honoring all pre-arrangements made with other funeral homes. For more information, visit them online or at 703-425-9702.
If you just tuned in, folks, you're watching a program called Catholic Life, and I'm John Buckwheat, your host, and Steve Rossi is my guest, and we're talking about indulgences in the Catholic Church, okay? But before we get into that and talk about that, let's give our viewing audience a little bit of background of yourself, Steve.
Sure, John. I've been in St. Michael's Parish since 1981, and when I first moved to the Washington area, and I've been here ever since. I lived about a mile away from the house that I have lived in now for over 20 years, and I would have never guessed that that would have been the case when I first moved in there, but that just happened to be. And in fact, we're about a half a mile away from each other or less, so we're neighbors as well. And the way I got involved with Plenary Indulgences and Indulgences to begin with was a good friend of mine that I grew up with in Providence, Rhode Island, where I'm originally from, as an ex-professor at the University of Dallas. And I remember saying to him, hey, you know, I heard that if you go to a priest's first Mass, you can get a plenary indulgence. Do you know anything about that? And he was a professor in theology, so he would, usually whenever I have a religious question, he would be the one I'd turn to. And he said, well, yes, in fact, you know, there's a book called the Handbook of Indulgences that you can refer to. It's a very thin book. It only costs about $10 at the time.
And that's this one right
and
here.
That's that one right there.
And while you're talking about that, I'm going to set that so. There we are.
Yes. And he says, you just have to get it, and that'll tell you all of the indulgences that the Catholic Church teaches about and that you can use to your benefit.
Well, let's tell our viewing audience, first of all, let's tackle the word indulgences.
Yes.
What does that mean now, and how would you explain that to a lay person?
Yeah, well, you know, a lot of people, when they first hear about indulgences, they probably think about what the Catholic Church used to do with indulgences maybe, you know, 1,000 years ago. And you know, the Catholic Church is not a perfect organization, but I understand, not knowing too much of the history of indulgences, that they maybe even used to sell indulgences. And an indulgence is the amount of time that it would take care of some time that you would actually spend in purgatory. So it used to be associated with a certain number of days. For instance, if you say a certain prayer, you spend 10 fewer days in purgatory. And this got to be probably an abusive item that some officials in the church probably started saying, well, if you want to spend less time in purgatory, then what you can do is you can buy this particular indulgence, we'll perform the works for you, and then you or your loved ones maybe spend a little less time in purgatory.
Well, you know, the book that you sent me to read over a little bit, I read in a chapter near someplace about back in the 15th or 16th century or something way back there. The kings or the princes would, like you said, sell the indulgence so that they could build a bigger castle or whatever.
Sure. So it goes into their coffers, and that, so for some Catholics...
But you can't sell indulgences.
You can't sell indulgences. I don't sell indulgences, but I talk about them, and I have a website that that tells you how you can get indulgences for yourself and for your loved ones.
Well, they'll show that website across the bottom of the screen there.
Yeah.
But are there different kinds of indulgences?
There are partial indulgences which don't have any specified amount of time associated with them.